I've been playing Rise of the Ronin for about a week now, and the game is really good. I have a long history with Team Ninja games. Growing up, I sunk countless hours into the Dead or Alive series, and Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2 is straight heat. So whenever I hear Team Ninja is releasing a new game, I'm always tapped in and keeping an eye on what they're doing. I really enjoyed Nioh, their take on the Soul genre, but wasn't the biggest fan of Wulong Fallen Dynasty though, but it did introduce some cool gameplay mechanics. So when Rise of the Ronin was revealed, I was already on board to give it a go, especially since this is their first open world game, and after clocking 15 hours in it, I can confirm it's a good time. Essentially, they took all the great things from Nioh, Wulong, took some inspiration from Ghost of Tsushima, and mashed them together, and it works really well. I'm only allowed to talk about the first 2 hours of the game in this hands-on preview, so make sure you guys subscribe and come back for my full review on March 21st. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to share any recorded footage just yet, but Team Ninja has provided reviewers with some B-roll footage to use for the time being. So I'm just going to give you guys my initial thoughts, first impressions on what I'm allowed to cover. Alright, so when you boot up Rise of the Ronin for the very first time, you're greeted with 3 graphical modes: performance, graphics, and a ray tracing mode. I obviously chose the performance mode because I need that 60 frames per second in an action game like this, but I did try all the graphical modes for those who are interested. While you gotta wait for Digital Foundry's video to hear about exact pixel counts, I'm assuming the graphics and ray tracing modes are targeting 4K. Usually games give a little description of each mode, but Rise of the Ronin doesn't. The graphics and ray tracing mode do look noticeably sharper, but the 30 frames per second is a no-go for me personally. So, how is the actual performance in these modes? The good news is, the performance mode for the most part is a consistent 60 frames per second experience. In all graphical modes, I've encountered some frame rate drops, areas where there's some hitching, a little visual bugs here and there, some intrusive pop-ins, but keep in mind, I'm playing an early build of the game and I'm still waiting on the day 1 patch. Hopefully it's cleaned up by launch. But as it is, in performance mode, it's a great experience for the most part, it's just not perfect. When you start a new game, you will have the choice between 3 difficulty options: Dawn, Dusk, and Twilight. Dawn for those who just want to enjoy the story, Dusk is like the normal mode, and Twilight is for those who want a real challenge. So if you're wondering if Rise of the Ronin was just another Souls-like game, it's not. It's an open world action adventure, but it does have a few Souls-like elements which I'll get to. I've been playing the game on Dusk myself, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a good challenge. The normal mode ain't no cakewalk. I definitely plan on replaying the game on Twilight difficulty if there's a new game plus. Going into Rise of the Ronin, I had no idea this game had a character creator. Like, all the promotional content led me to believe that there was a set main protagonist, so it did throw me off a little bit. With that being said, the character creator is pretty detailed. There's sliders to adjust facial structure, muscle mass, voice, and there's a lot of hair, body scars, and tattoo options. I'm sure people are going to create some badass looking Ronin, and what's cool is you're never locked into a look. You'll be able to customize your character's main features at any point in the game. A lot of games that have character creators lock you from adjusting certain attributes after starting the game, so it's pretty cool you can redesign your character from scratch at any point in the game. So after picking your graphical mode, your difficulty setting, and creating your character, your adventure begins. Now let's get into the gameplay. Like I mentioned earlier, Rise of the Ronin is an open world game. It follows a Ubisoft open world template that's pretty much a standard in gaming today, with a lot of points of interest, activities, and collectibles on the map. I haven't explored the entire map yet, so I can't definitively say its map is big or small, but as far as I can tell, it seems to have a smaller map than Ghost of Tsushima or a Horizon Forbidden West for comparison. But who knows, maybe as I progress in the story, more areas will unlock. I'll keep you guys posted on that one. If not, I'm not too mad either, because bigger doesn't always mean better. There's Souls-like elements injected into the open world experience with the veiled edge banners scattered all over the map. They operate like your bonfires. Once activated, consumables replenish, enemies reset, and they act as fast traveling points. I'll go deeper into the open world activities for the review, but I'm really enjoying the gameplay loop so far. Where Rise of the Ronin shines the most is its combat system. It's really good. Shout out to my boy Nev, the biggest Ghost of Tsushima fan I know. Shit, I'm a fan of Ghost too. But one of my main criticisms for Ghost was the skill ceiling was too short for how long the game was, so the combat got kind of repetitive. After a few hours in Ghost, you pretty much feel like a master at the game, even at the harder difficulties. Rise of the Ronin has a much higher skill curve because it has a stamina system for your ki, stance system across multiple different weapons, a parry system with windows that are not forgivable, way more enemy variety, you can switch between allies in real time during combat, has multiple status ailments, a weapon proficiency system, co-op, and more. I'm telling you, it's not even close. Rise of the Ronin's combat is fire, and I can't wait to get into the minute details in my next video. For those who are wondering if the game plays more like Neo or it plays more like Wulong, I would say it plays more like Wulong in terms of its speed and emphasis on parrying versus Neo. You're definitely going to notice elements from both games, but it comes together creating something original. You're going to see some reused animations, sound effects from the Neo series, especially when it comes to enemies dismemberment, rifle gameplay, but it ain't no real issue. Just like in Neo, expect to acquire a lot of loot after defeating an enemy. It's much more streamlined in Rise, since now you pick up every item one time off the body. Each enemy is not dropping 5 different pieces of loot all over the ground for you to sort through. The loot that you acquire is meant to be taken to the blacksmith to disassemble to upgrade your weapons that you actually want, or you can sell them. As for the character level progression, it's done a little bit differently from Neo. With each enemy you defeat, you build up karma, which is pretty much your EXP. When the meter is full, it's converted to skill points when you interact with a Veiled Edge banner. If you die though, you have to go back and defeat the enemy that killed you to receive your karma back. You can also gain skill points from doing missions and open world activities. You use your skill points to buy techniques and new skills. There's 4 skill trees in the game, one for strength, dexterity, charm, and intellect. Using your skill points in one of these skill trees will overall increase your character's abilities. For example, upgrading something in your strength skill tree increases your character's overall attack power and defensive stats. It goes hand in hand. There's also a bond system in Rise of the Ronin. Strengthening your bond with certain NPCs in the world will grant you new combat styles and rare skill points. I will also talk about that later in my review video. There's just so much here. Lastly, I want to talk about the visuals. This is where I give Ghost of Tsushima the advantage. The game looks good, but it's nothing people are going to lose their minds about. It has its moments where the game looks stunning, and it also has its moments where the game looks pretty average. I think I'll leave it at that for now. I'll get into the narrative in my final review since I can't discuss it at this moment, and I'll go into more detail with the game in all aspects. The biggest takeaway from this hands-on preview is I'm really enjoying the game, and it's shaping up to be one of my favorites this year. If you have any questions, please write it in the comment section below, and I will answer them in my final review. See you guys then.